We started a class this week, and as a matter of fact, we've just barely started. It's a 5 weeks class. If anyone would like to join, you may. Just email me, catch me before we leave here today, and you may do that. It's hybrid, and we will meet on Zoom sometimes. Some of the work will be, you can post it on a special group on Facebook that we're creating. And you may send the assignments to me by email if you'd prefer, the old-fashioned way, whatever works. We're going to make it work for everyone. It's the first class that they teach at Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute. And I also can, any spiritual minister or licensed Unity teacher can teach it. And so I've offered it here because we had several people that were interested. And one of the texts, there are 2 texts in the class. One of them is Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. And this book came along, in the early 1900s when the founders, they knew Emily Cady. She was also a New Thought teacher, and they saw how prolific she was with her writings and able to condense things down so that you could understand them. They had a lot of writings, but there was just a big collection, and they wanted to teach this first class in Unity, and they asked her if she would write this little book, and she did. And it is in exclusive language, like you would expect back in the 1900s, but it's so much truth within it, so much truth. So I decided today to just give a talk on back to basics, and my husband reminded me of Vince Lombardi, when after a season when his team had really let him down at the end of the season, and they had a pretty disappointing loss when they should have had a win. So when they went to summer camp, he said, "Okay, guys, let's start with the basics. This is a football." So I thought that's what we would start with today too. I remembered, too, I was thinking this morning about the program that Bob Newhart used to have on television. Anybody remember it? He was a psychologist, and he had become so worn out for listening to people's problems for years, yet they wouldn't do anything about it. They would just come back to him the following week with a different scenario, a different problem, but it was basically the same thing. It was them not ever taking his advice. And so he decided on a new tactic. He just wasn't going to do that anymore. He was just going to charge $5, and they'd get to ask him one thing. And so they'd come back. This first one comes in, and she's got all kinds of stuff she's going on about. He said, "No, hold up. Just, that's a minute. That's enough. That's all I need to hear. Just stop," is what he told her. Just stop. "Okay, now that'll be $5, he said. And you know, we find when we really look at the principles of truth and how we can change our lives, we do find that there's a great truth in that. And a lot of times we just need to stop, don't we? Just stop all those thoughts. Just stop all the chaos. Step away from the drama. Refuse to be involved in it, whoever it involves. Step away from it. Step away from the negative thinking and the chaos. I had a friend from ministerial school that shared that she had reached a point in her life, and this was like 30 years before she decided to go into Unity ministry. she had reached a point where she just felt like her life was hopeless. She had no self-confidence. She didn't think she could do anything. Her self-esteem was zero. And someone invited her to a Unity church. And she said she never stepped away from it. Every Sunday she's able, every chance she gets, she goes. Because they remind her of who she truly is. And that's not the human experience we're having. It's who she truly is her, the divine within her, her higher self. And then we get all bogged down with the human stories, don't we? And sometimes we forget that the Quakers say there's a light within you, and you can use it. I've always loved that about the Quakers, that they believe there is a light inherent within each of us, just like Jesus had. I think that's powerful. We teach that too, as a matter of fact. So Karen said that she was my friend, that one of the things that touched her most, though, was the class in Lessons in Truth. And one of the first things she learned was bondage or liberty. That is the first chapter in Lessons in Truth. Do you want to live in bondage or do you want liberty? And according to Emily Cady, in entering upon this course of instruction, each of you should, as far as possible, clear out any previous theories, beliefs, or thoughts. You do not want to be putting new wine into old wine skins. I love it when she says that. Any new thoughts about what, and you might say, well, what about what's going on in the world? Hold on a minute. Just stop. As Bob Newhart says, let's not put any old wine into new wineskins. Let's claim it all. Let's claim healing for ourselves. Let's first claim healing in our own minds. And she said to go from bondage to liberty is to simply accept that you can change your mind. Isn't that cool? Wow, wouldn't that be cool? You can change your mind about something and change the situation immediately. Immediately. You can stop the negative thoughts just like that. Now, I admit it's harder in the middle of the night, okay? When you're going over something over and over and over and over again, a little bit harder to do that, but you can, to stop those negative thoughts. And she said that is one way to go from bondage to liberty. And I love the songs you chose this morning. Thank you for doing that. I Am the Thinker goes right along with that message, doesn't it? And the other one, I am unfree, I am unlimited. Indeed. I was thinking as we were singing it, those were perfect for the lesson for today. We can choose our thoughts. We can choose our thoughts. The other textbook in this class is that Unity has chosen for their foundations class is Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. And he was a Unity minister and taught mostly in the 70s. And one of my favorite essays that he wrote is the True Point of Beginning. And in it, he says that if you're a surveyor, you have a specific place that you are to begin, right? It's a certain geographic location, and it has a whole lot of numbers behind it. North, east, southwest, and all these other minutes and all those things. Very, very specific. And he said that the true point of beginning for us is very similar to what Emily Cady said, and that is that we recognize that Jesus was not the great exception. Rather, he was an example, and he came to tell us that we could change our thoughts. We can start over again and again and again. He taught that we have the ability within us at any moment to connect with God, to align with God. And once you know that, you can begin to perfect that, and you can begin to enhance and deepen your faith and your trust by practicing it. First, we practice through stillness. In the quiet time, we practice through prayer and meditation and going within. We go into our heart and we connect with the divine. When we lived in Kingston, Tennessee, down by Watts Bar Lake, I had a friend who was also a prayer and meditation partner with me. And she would take her prayer list in the morning. Here was the practice that she did. She had to have the house quiet. Her husband had to be gone because he was loud and noisy. And so after he would leave, he left before she did. She needed the house to be quiet. And so she would sit with her prayer list. And on her prayer list, she had the various names or needs that she had written. And as she's going into meditation and thinking about each of these names on this prayer list, she would get a message about each and every one of them. It was very, very powerful. She shared that with me, and I appreciated it so much, and I remember it even to this day. When I'm troubled about someone or something or a challenge in the world, I'll just go mentally through my list and see what Spirit has to say for me today. And if you will listen closely enough, you will hear. You will always hear. And after a time in the quiet, you will find, no matter the outer circumstances going on, you'll find you'll be at peace. You'll find that your breathing is slowed, you're calm, your heartbeat has even slowed a little bit. You're calmer, more peaceful, and at ease. We talked a little bit this morning in our before church discussion group about the fact that when we are co-creating our lives with God, our higher power, that our lives don't become perfect, but we do have the tools to navigate through the old problems that may have shut us down at one time. And we have more tools to get us through. And plus, having a co-creation process to our thoughts, we find that when we're not thinking in a negative mode all the time, but we're looking for something better. Say we've been out of work for a long time and we're sitting around saying, I will never get a job. I will never get a job. When we can change that too, using an affirmation, which is one of the things that we recommend here. My new job, my new perfect job is just around the corner. It's coming to me now. You will find that the more positive you are, then that a lot of circumstances will physically change too. Not just the way you look at them, but you will find that materially they will change. I mentioned this morning too in our discussion group about the first step with AA is to recognize and surrender. And in AA, I'm told that they say the first step is to admit and surrender to the fact that you have not been able to get away from this. Usually it's an addiction. You have not been able to claim that on your own, so you've turned to a higher power for help with that. And that's wonderful. You say, I have not been able to help myself with this addiction. I am going to turn to my higher power for help with that. We also claim here that the higher power that we turn to is not the one that we grew up with, the one that was punishing, and the one that if we were good, and then we would be rewarded, and if we were bad, we would be punished forever by a very judgmental God. And I was thinking of that song, now it's left my mind, sorry, about Santa and the child. Better watch out, you better be good, you better not cry, you better not pout. Santa Claus is coming to town. Well, that was the sort of God we worshiped, or we were told about, isn't it? You better be good, and you better not pout. You better behave. For goodness sakes, yes. Thank you. And that's not what we teach here. Sin and especially, being punished and having something held on to over the time that, that there's a Santa out there watching you, and you may be punished after this life because you weren't good enough. Right? There was another song that came to my mind this morning as I was thinking about the true point of beginning and back to the basics, and I was thinking about the spiritual journey and what brings people sometimes to their knees and to begin a spiritual journey is that they recognize their lives have not worked out for them the way they are. They're not happy. Sometimes it'll happen after a significant loss, an illness, whatever it is that came. There's a recognition that my life isn't working the way it should have. And there was the song, I believe it was Peggy Lee that sang it, "Is This All There Is?" Whoever wrote that had come to the point in their lives, hadn't they, where they'd tried all the material things they could think of to think and grow rich, or whatever that is. And that's not a bad book, actually. But back from the 60s and the 70s and the later 20th century, that seemed to be the theme of life, was to drive a bigger car, have a bigger house, and then you've made it. You've really, really made it if you've got all those material things and more money. And I think that's why the song was written, is this all there is to life? And that's where a lot of people come to when they want more. They want more, they want a richness, they want something deeper, and you can have it. You can have it every single moment. And you don't have to be any specific place or a sacred temple or any place else. All you need is to be able to say, God and I are one. I have the light within me. If I change my thoughts, I can change my life. And to start to realize and be aware. And that's what you do. Do we become perfect? No. But we do start to notice ourselves when we're getting off track. And you're thinking, okay, I'm off track here. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. I've got this feeling about that situation or that person or that thing. And then you recognize, okay, I can change that. I can change that. I'm going to change it right now. And all it takes is just a sliver of willingness to turn your life around and to allow God in and to allow the light in. It's just a sliver of willingness. Marianne Williamson talks a lot about being willing to turn your life around, being willing to allow love to come into your life and be the source of all that matters. So I guess the words I would say to you this morning is to remember we start again, we begin again every single moment. It's never too late. You can start right where you are and change your life. All you need to do is to decide. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your time.